Hello YouTube. We're here today to see how much echo is in this room and also to discuss a topic that's not touched on a lot, especially in a church setting, and it's the topic of porn. It's something that Steve and I have both dealt with in our past, and so we just want to kind of do a quick video about what we've gone through and how we've overcome it and how we stay away from it. So, you want to start by telling a little bit about your story?
I basically came of age right as the internet was really taking off, and so it was sort of a weird time. My parents were blindsided by it. They had really no idea what all you could access on the internet at the time, and I really didn't either. I just kind of fell into it. And I mean, everybody, you're a guy in high school, you're going to run into it all the time. And so there's all the magazines and stuff coming through, but then really, as I was getting out of high school, the internet was there, and it kind of took all the work out of obtaining it. So it was just there. It was right at your fingertips all of a sudden. And so I was already sort of a really timid guy. I was really shy, and that was sort of became my escape from that, because I felt really self-conscious and everything. And so that was kind of where I turned to, instead of trying to better myself socially, I guess. So it really kind of took off and sucked me in.
Gotcha. Was there more?
Oh, that's how I got into it.
Oh, that's how you got into it. Okay, yeah. How I got into it was pre-internet, long before the internet. It would have been 1990. No. Yeah, somewhere 1990s, early 1990s, whatever. I was probably 10 or 11, and I was over at a friend's house, and him and I had this cabin that was like on neighbor's property. We weren't even supposed to be over there in the first place, and we would go back there, and there was stacks of magazines hidden in this little cabin. And so we'd take off on our bikes and just disappear. His parents never knew where we were going or what we were doing, and truthfully they probably wouldn't have even cared. It was just how those times were. And then we'd also watch, stay up late enough on cable TV, and or not cable TV, satellite TV, and you could get some soft core stuff, and so I'd stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. My friend would be passed out, but I'd be sitting there gorging myself watching it, and then it kind of built from there. Then the age of the internet eventually came, 6, 7 years later, and there was, it wasn't as rampant back then, of course, but it was definitely out there. My friends were looking at it and shared different sites with me. They were more than happy to share sites with me, and it just made it worse and worse. Found videos, got more magazines, all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where it started with me, a little bit before.
Mm-hmm.
But
the internet's really, it just took off and it's not slowing down either.
No.
And the really sad part about it is it's getting worse and worse. The content, it's not just nude women. It is insane stuff now.
Yeah.
And that scared me, some of the stuff. And I wasn't even going after, I wasn't like looking for the hardcore stuff, but it would just, you would see an advertisement for something, a link to something else. And it was just, that's a lot of people now, they just, to get basically their porn high, they just keep going darker and darker and darker. And so for me, I could see that a little bit in myself, and it really scared me. And that was one of the things that kind of, the wake up calls. I had to have a bunch of wake up calls. It wasn't just one thing that was like,
Yeah.
you need to quit. There were several things that happened to really break me, but that was one of them. It was just like, this is bad. That's bad. That's wrong. That's more wrong than anything else. And then, so it kind of scared me almost out of it.
It took a lot for me to get out of it. It took me down a dark path as far as outside of just the looking at it or watching it or whatever it was. It was, I had to physically have that action, for lack of a better term, that interaction with a female, and it ended up, it would cause issues in relationships because, it's something that you expect to get because you see it on those videos, and that's not reality. That's not reality. That's just fantasy, and that really affected me, and it even more so once I got married, because you take everything you've ever done, not just what you've looked at or what you've seen, but what you've done in past relationships. You're taking that into your marriage. Whenever you get married, you're taking that into your marriage, and you always have that comparison. You always have something that you're comparing your spouse to, and that's awful. It's an awful feeling especially when you realize you're doing it. You're just like, hey, wait a minute. This is my wife. I shouldn't be, shouldn't be thinking about anybody else. And you don't want to have that burden on you, and you don't want to put that burden on your spouse. I say spouse because there are women out there that deal with this issue as well.
As I got into my 20s, I just sort of developed a routine. Became very. I would try to fight it every once in a while, but really, for the most part, I didn't. But it was basically just porn and video games. I had a good job. I kept my job. Didn't have any trouble there. But when I wasn't working, I could still the bad thing about porn compared to like drugs or any other addiction is, you're not going to go fail a drug test with porn. You're not going to. You can.
It's an inside.
Yeah, you can maintain yourself in society. You can be a person, and it's not. You're not. You can do that and it not affect other parts of your life.
Right. Yeah.
But really, in reality, it is affecting every part of your life, but it's not affecting it in a way that's maybe observable to other people.
Right.
Like, if you're drunk, you show up somewhere drunk.
They're gonna
if you're
know.
alcoholic, people are going to know about it. But porn is so much easier to hide.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I just kind of got away from society, just done my job and stayed at home and go on vacation every once in a while. But if I went to church or anything, it was really just with family. I didn't really get out, and if I went on vacation, it was just with family. Every once in a while, I'll go hang out with my friends and do stuff. But I love my friends and everything, but they were not like the best friends for this. They weren't like the worst kids in the world, but they wasn't, the best kids in the world either. So I just got into the routine of just playing video games and porn and work. And I've done that for like 10 years straight. And then I got fat. The worst part though was just being completely out of society, basically. So I kind of left my friends really, and to just have the people I worked with, just kind of kept in touch with them, and I never really. There's certain social skills that I haven't developed because of this. That's what I'm trying to get around to. There's certain. I am like deathly afraid of women, basically. So instead of like your deal where it made you more aggressive, it done the opposite to me. I withdrew. You know, I'm scared because I can't live up to this example that porn has set. You know, I can't do that.
Unrealistic.
It's very
example.
unrealistic, yeah. And so it was, it really hurt my ability to develop relationships.
You know, well, I already talked about the different girlfriends and everything I went through. As far as socially, in the time that I was involved in doing this, it didn't really affect me socially. Other than I was always trying to attach myself to women one way or another. Sometimes, whether or not the girl wanted me to. Unfortunately, I got rejected a few times, lo and behold. But I guess the next part we should really get into is talking about how we realized that it was wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, it was how it was affecting us and how we got out of it. Me personally, I started to just kind of, like I said, see how it was affecting my marriage. It started to slow down then. It was just because I was kind of like getting a little bit older, and I was just kind of like, okay, I gotta at least slow down with it. But it just became more hidden. Mm-hmm. It wasn't happening as often, but when it would happen, it was bad. And it got to the point where I didn't really know what to do with it. And I was getting a little bit stronger in my Christian walk. You know, Christ had come into my life. I was around 18. Yeah, I just turned 18, and when I got saved. And so slowly but surely, all the other sins had fallen away. I was able to get rid of smoking. I was able to get rid of drinking. You know, my attachment to women wasn't as bad. This is before my wife, obviously. I'm very much attached to her now. But all of that fell away. It was God removed that from my life from one way or the other. But porn was just one that just kept sneaking in. The devil knew those buttons of how he could sneak it back into my life. And it could be as simple, and I have to even be careful now, you know, doing what I do with graphic stuff. If I'm searching for images, you would not believe the attachments that you'll find, the images that you'll find just for simple Google searches. But this is something I wanted to mention earlier, is that if you think about how many websites are out there, and statistically 80% of those are porn, which is a humongous number because there's billions and billions of different websites out there, and 80% of those are porn, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, you know, I kept praying. I'm like, Lord, I want rid of this. I want rid of this. I want rid of this. And he finally pointed me to the fact that I had to become accountable to somebody. And so the accountability started. I found I was at this concert, and there was a band playing that I knew the guys in somewhat, and God just kind of led me to this one particular guy, and he said, go talk to him about being your accountability partner. And I was like, he's up on the stage, he's better than me, he's in a Christian band. And he's like, go talk to him. And so after the show, I went around back, and like I said, I kind of knew who he was, so I went around and talked to him. And I told him what I kind of felt God saying to me was to talk to him about that. And he's like, that's so crazy. I was like, why is that crazy? He was kind of giving me this like lunatic look. And he goes, I've been looking for an accountability partner for this. He was struggling with the exact same thing. And so together we kind of, we talk once a week, and we ask each other those hard questions. Those like, have you been into it? What have you been doing along with it? All of those, like, I don't really want to talk about those kind of questions. And it really helped. Well, then, that kind of, it faded away because we just kind of like, he went one way, I went the other, just not in a bad way. It was just our lives changed. And so God decided to switch it to make it even more harder for me to do it. And he said, you've got to become accountable to your wife. And I don't know if anybody else has ever done this, but to admit to your wife that you looked at porn is the hardest thing that I think I've ever done in my life, to look at her straight in the face and say, I looked at something today and I need to tell you this. That's like, I'd rather be hit with a whip with glass on the end, like Jesus was. I think I'd rather have that than to. She didn't make me feel guilty in any way. It was just, I implied that there was guilt, and so it was like, I'm sorry, And so every once in a while, she would just be like, have you been being good? And I knew exactly what she meant when she'd say it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And slowly over the years, she hasn't even had to ask me anymore. I'm not saying the devil never tempts me. The temptation's going to be there probably till the day I die, because I'm unfortunately still man and still human.
The flesh.
Yeah. So, I just got to continue to pay attention to what I'm looking at, whether it be a live human being or something on a screen. But that was kind of long.
Oh, no.
But that was how I was able to finally kind of get beyond that. God using my wife.
Yeah. Wish I had a wife to use. That may be edited out of there lately.
No, that was funny. So we're gonna leave that in.
I knew it was wrong. I lived. My parents raised me in a Christian household. I read the Bible. I would constantly be convicted of it in my heart, and I started hearing a lot more sermons, not even about porn, but just talking about conviction and everything, and how the reprobate mind, that kind of scared me. That kind of whenever you have if you go in the Bible and you start reading about sexual sins, that's one of the things that comes up is this reprobate mind. And it's a lot of it. There's one verse where it says that God turned them over to that. And so I'm like, God, I don't want you to turn me over to this. But it was still hard. I didn't have that. It takes so much self-control to take your life back over, to develop that discipline to take your life back over. And so around 2012, my nephew was born, and I went and I got to hold him and everything, and I was like looking at the pictures, and I'm like, I don't want to be fat Uncle Steve that watches porn all the time. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be better. And so I came back home because he was down in Georgia and we're up here. I went and I'm just like, I got to change. And so, I didn't drop it right away. It was still hard. It was still a process. I joined a new church that had just came to town, and I think God sent them here for me, because my pastor is not afraid to talk about porn. He's not afraid to talk about the hard subjects. And so it was still a good year into going to that church that it finally got to me. And there was one sermon, he wasn't even going that way, but he was just talking about addictive sins, and he said, to break it, you got to find something you love more than the sin. You got to find something that you can concentrate on, that you want to quit the sin for that. And it may have to be yourself, you may have to do that. And so I'm like, I got to quit. And so that was really my breaking point. I finally, I broke it then, and then it came back, but then I broke it again. And so since then, I've been good. And it is hard, because I basically cut out all TV. I just can't watch. And sometimes it's not the shows, it's the commercials in between in the show. And so it's just
watching a football game.
Yeah, I mean, you're watching football, or watching sports, and something comes up, and I was a big Walking Dead fan, and I have to give up The Walking Dead. And this was a big part of it. And it was more than, giving up some of this was more than just porn. It was trying to get right with God in my whole life. And trying to, as far as just being, not just in that area, but every area in my life, trying to become more and more godly. And so I gave up TV. I gave up video games. I quit listening to heavy metal music that I really liked, and just now I listen to Christian heavy metal music. Yeah. But it's just, whenever you want God to work in your life, you have to give your life over to God in every aspect of it. And I noticed that when I was that, I mean, there's certain spiritual laws at work. There's certain places that even God was blessing me still, but when I was addicted, but He wouldn't give me a relationship. And that's what you really want, when really deep down you're replacing your desire for a relationship with porn. That's the big deal. Yeah. And if you're trying to walk that line, if you're trying to be a Christian and, be a worldly Christian, be a carnal Christian, you can't do it. God's not going to bless you in that area if you're supplementing it yourself. Yeah. So that was some hard lessons to learn. And since God's really has been working on me, showing me stuff lately, and it's really, He's given me strength. But it's still that discipline, because God's not going to hold your hand and make you not sin. That's one of the big lessons you got to learn. But, God will be there. He will help give you strength, but He's not going to stop you.
Yeah. He gave us free will.
Yeah.
And so we have to make those choices. And I had a pastor tell me once that we have a spirit of addiction built into us, but that addiction was meant to be addicted to God, to strive to do all things for Him, to, just go out there and to love people and to do all things for Him to get the glory. But then, just like everything else in this world, Satan has come in and perverted it to where we have all the issues with all the different types of addiction. We're talking about porn. We've talked about alcohol and drugs and caffeine, sugar in general.
Yeah.
You talked about getting fat. I'm still fat. That has nothing to do with porn addiction. It's just I have an addiction to Rockstar and Coke, the drinkable kind.
Since I've lost 60 pounds since I quit, so that's But that was part of it for me to. I started running, and that helped me. That was one of the things that really helped me develop that discipline. Is you got to find something, whether it be exercise. You want to do something productive. You don't want to trade porn for video games. You don't want to trade it for something that's not going to help you spiritually and physically. Right. You want to. That's one way you can break it. If I want you to be a Christian. I want you to learn from this and to seek God. But if you're not, if you don't want to go that way, but you're still wanting to break this addiction, then that's one of the things to look for. Physical activities that help build your self-esteem, like working out, exercise, learning a new hobby like carpentry or anything that's constructive. That really will help keep your mind off of it too.
Go become an American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah. Yep.
Something. Yeah, definitely find something to keep you occupied, because what is it? An idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah.
And that holds true so much more in porn than anything else. Because that's another downside to porn, is that the images, the mental images of what you've seen, especially if you're a visual person, and I am horribly, those images, it takes forever for them to go away. I'm not going to say they're never going to go away, but I was thinking the other day, because we were planning for this video, and I was just thinking about, like, unfortunately, the thought came to me as to like some of the first stuff that I had seen, and the videos were more apparent in my mind than, say, some of the magazines that I looked at. But it was just so scary that even if the thought is faded and it's just barely there, it's still there, and that's been, oh my goodness, 25 years. That's a long time. The memory, the mind is a great thing, but it can also be a very wicked thing when it comes to that type of memory. So our hopes in making this video, and hopefully even more, depending on what we can do with this concept, is to help others that are going through it now or have gone through it and might be struggling again. We want to, make a internet family. I don't know how to put that. You know what I mean?
I just want to let you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like you said, 80% of the websites are porn in the whole world. I know all kinds of people that you can just tell, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but it is so prevalent in our society right now that you're definitely not alone.
Yeah.
And if you want to fight it, if you want to get out of it, you're not alone either. Yeah. And it's embarrassing. There's a lot of shame involved in it, but it's sin like everything else. And nobody's perfect. Everybody's fell short. Everybody.
Yeah.
Even
sure.
like what Jesus said, even our righteousness, even the best part of us is filthy rags.
Yeah.
So.
And I can tell you though, there's the filthiness, there's the disgustingness, but I'll tell you, when you're able to get rid of it and get beyond it, that freedom, that weight off of your shoulders is tremendous. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to think about porn 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Because it'll consume you. It'll eat you alive. And you don't realize it when you're in it. Mm-hmm. But when you get out of it, it's like, oh, that's what this feels like.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. So, even on YouTube, where we're planning on putting this, there's a lot of evil stuff out there. And that's why we're probably going to title this something crazy to try to get some attention. But we just hope that this video has helped you. And we hope, like I said, to make some more, to be able to either discuss different topics or discuss this more in detail about different things that you can do to help avoid it. Because there's so many other things that come into topic, and those are the unmentionables.
Yeah.
That you can get into when you get yourself into that pornographic world. So if you like this video, go ahead, put a thumbs up at the bottom or whatever you do, and we'll try to put some links in the description of places where you can go to kind of help out with this, so that you can find a route to take to get away from this, and hopefully not struggle as long as we had to go through with this addiction. So we thank you for watching, and hope to see you next time.